Okay, friends, if you've been following me and David Leone in our conversations, you know that he has been very excited for this. This is the Cadillac CT6. Actually, go back all the way to the point of when we saw the XTS with Clay Dean. If you look at that film and listen to what Clay Dean was talking about, he was referring to this car. What does this car mean? It's the Cadillac Touring 6, or 6 auf Deutsch. Now, let's focus on some stuff we do know. The engines. So, believe it or not, the base engine will be a 4-cylinder in the big car. Then, if you look, we've got a V6 twin turbo, which we've driven in the V Sport CTS, and it is fantastic. I'm very keen to drive it in the bigger car and see how it translates. But now let's focus back on the stuff we know. So, I think you guys know I'm a frustrated designer, and we have a lot of friends on the show that are designers, and they always come on and they talk about proportions. Well, what does that really translate to? What does it mean where the rubber meets the road? Well, in a car like this, you want length, you want width, you want something that really says there's a presence about it, but what does that really mean in terms of little bits? Like, there's two things up here I'm going to show you. So, if you look at like a 7 Series or an S-Class, notice what the length from the front of the door to the rear of the wheel well. There's a lot more length here than in most other cars, like mid-size cars or front-wheel drive cars. Another thing they do here is look at the height of the wheel well in relation to the height of the hood. This is much more narrow. Like if I were to go over to a CTS right now, instead of it being this, it would be this, as with most cars. And the reason why they do that is they share platforms in different segments. Like the XTS, which really isn't the previous car, but the XTS shares a platform with a Buick LaCrosse and the Chevy Impala. So it has to do double duty. So what Cadillac is doing here is they're making one platform. This is the Omega platform. It picks up from the Alpha platform, and it's only going to be used for Cadillac. So that's how they can get details like this, which translates to much more presence on the road. Now, let's talk about some of the stuff on the inside, because it's a luxury car, right? So over here, we've spent a lot of time inside the interiors looking at what Cadillac has done, and they got the cut and sew that to talk about. And if you look at the first-gen CTS, that was a horrible interior, but a great overall design. Then you look at the fit and finish of the second-gen CTS, it was a light years jump. But now this third generation one, now you take the interior seriously. This is many steps above even that third generation CTS, where the stitching is, I want to say more refined, but it's toned down. There's not as many textures going on. Like when we first looked at that car, like the door panels have suede, wood, and leather, and two types of leather. This is just leather. They got carbon fiber on this one, and then more leather. So it's a much more simple, refined kind of luxury. And then even down to like the shifter knob here, it's got this super simple but beautiful shape. And then taking a page out of most luxury cars nowadays, you've got this haptic feedback on a trackpad inside the car. And then they've continued the theme of the leather going through the entire console here. And then the steering wheel itself, much more, it's like a lighter feel steering wheel. The design is more, let's face it, it's like the difference between looking at a Motorola interface on a StarTAC from 1997 to looking at the iOS from 2015. Now, beyond the steering wheel, notice the instrument panel. It's a combination of Cadillac, what we know today, and some finer detailing. Like, look at the bezels around the gauges, and that theme picks up in the HVAC system and around the actual shift knob itself. Now, let's switch gears a little bit, and let's focus on the realities of selling a car like this. In today's day and age, you're not selling this just in America, you're selling this around the world. So what Cadillac has done here has offered a wheelbase that currently isn't on offer in the US. So the current S-Class and 7 Series, they're only offered on a long wheelbase in the US. But in other markets is a short wheelbase. Now that's a popular choice for markets that require chauffeur-driven cars. So really what Cadillac is thinking here is China. So let's open up the door and notice there's a lot more room back here. So this is beyond what the XTS has, and it's frankly a very nice place to be. You've got the same fit and finish in the rear. Notice they've changed the way the sunroof, the moonroof, is no longer two panels sandwiched together. They've got this division in here so you can separate the sunshade itself. And they've got the super wide armrest in here, and that really brings up a thing that I want to show you back here is look at the car. And again, we talk presence. It's all about width here. So you got that length in the front from the door to the wheel, but when you're talking about looking at the car that's coming at you or going away from you, it's not just light signatures like this here. Notice the light signature, it's not just vertical, it's also horizontal, which is kind of a departure from Cadillacs nowadays. But then they've added in some detailing here with some chrome, and then chrome down on the exhaust tips. So overall, this is, I want to say it's a departure for Cadillac. It's a huge departure, but notice the overall design is still very traditional, and probably from 50 feet away, you're going to say, that is a Cadillac. So let's switch gears.
All right.
I'm going to ask you your thoughts.
Okay.
First, CT6.
CT6. I think in one word I would describe CT6 as classy. I like that they were bringing that strong Cadillac, design, family line into the CT6.
Yeah.
But I like that they kind of kept it simple and clean. It's not overdone. It's just kind of speaks for itself. It's there.
It's good. It's interesting to me. I spoke to Jeff Neal. Jeff's another guy like Vish who went, and I met him when he was designing taxi projects at Ford.
Okay.
He was this little surfer kid and grew up in California, and he just was really passionate about cars. And now he's running advanced design for a Cadillac.
Okay.
And so he was a big player in this car. And their whole logic, what he was telling me at least, was they want the overall experience to hit you, not just some design.
Right.
Which I thought was interesting.
Going beyond just the aesthetics or the emotional part of the car.
I mean, me personally, if I'm being honest, and I love Jeff, I love all the designers at GM, like Frank, who worked on this car, and Clay Dean. I think they did a really good job with this.
Yeah.
I personally would have loved to have seen a little bit more aggressiveness in the design. I think in this segment, there's like, you look what S-Class does, and this technically, I'm not saying anything, but let's just say there's probably going to be something else that's going to compete with the S-Class.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I didn't say anything.
I don't know. You think maybe about the demographics of the buyer of this car? I don't think that they want all the extra design elements.
You think so?
Yeah.
You bring up a really good point.
Even the S-Class buyer doesn't want fussy design.
They don't want fussy design, but the S-Class, I would argue, is this dynamic design. And if you look at like the sales charts in that segment, the S-Class sells rings around the 7, the Jaguar, the Lexus combined. You put all those combined, and the S-Class still beats them. So I would argue design has something to do with it, at least.
And probably functionality from the driver's standpoint as well on the inside.
Yeah.
So if they do a really great job with the interior on this car and the Q system.
The interior is really nice on this. And it's funny you bring up the driving-centric thing. This was more a function of selling it in world markets.
Yeah, okay.
To have space for being a chauffeur-driven car, not livery, but like in China.
In China, being driven.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to sit inside this car?
I have not sat in it yet.
Oh, we got to get you in
We'll do that
there.
after this.
Yeah, it's a neat little. They've taken the whole cut and sew thing and they've gone to a completely different level.
Okay.
It's a much more refined execution of cut and sew.
Okay.
And did you drive the CTS?
Yes.
What'd you think of that?
I love the CTS.
Yeah, isn't that awesome?
Yeah, and the ATS Coupe. I really like that.
I love the ATS Coupe with the stick and the magnetic. That's a fun
great car.
Yeah. But if you look at a CTS, I love the interior, but you look at the door panel, it's very busy with the different textures going on.
Yeah.
They obviously learned from that.
It.
They obviously learned from that. And what they did was went with one texture. So they got leather, and then you can opt for carbon fiber, opt for wood, and you can get like a matte wood finish, which is really cool.
I love that.
And then you can get the leather all the way, and it's all the way down the door panel.
Oh, nice.
I got to tell you, the interior, they did a hell of a job on this car.
I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Okay, so I know I'm really geeking out about this thing, but now we got the car naked. Take a look at the transmission, you got the all-wheel drive system, but really focus on the rear setup, the rear wheels in particular. Why? Because they steer. The whole mechanism is there. Now come around and see the suspension setup back here. So it's a multi-link unit. You got the magnetic ride control dampers, you got the coils, and then notice the setup. So the platform, it's a combination of steel and aluminum, and the whole concept is to blend the two to bring the overall weight of the car and the platform down. So Cadillac says it's 300 pounds lighter than competition, but in reality, if you were to compare this to like an S-Class or a short wheelbase 7, it's significantly lighter. It's more along the weight of like a 5 Series, which is a physically shorter car. But anyway, back to the rear wheel steering. So this does two things. In low speed situations like parking lots, it makes maneuverability easier, but on high speed situations like lane changes or like canyon roads, not that you're going to be doing canyon carving with a car like this, it increases the stability. So here's the script. Click here to subscribe, click here to watch one of our 350 other episodes, and most importantly, share us with your friends. You're only wasting half your life on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. MotoManTV, all one word. I don't care who you share us with. Share us with your enemies. Just give the gift of MotoMan.